Hello everyone, this is Future Meg. I have spent 6 hours trying to render a video with some simple OBS screen capture in it concerning Synnibear and the Google Docs that were released. One is 180 pages long, and the other is over 110 pages long. The second one was from a different person. The first one was somebody who was 14 years old when Synnibear was asking, sending, speaking inappropriately around them. The sending involved art they drew of their avatar naked. Conversations including them being horny and talking a little sexually in their area. Their body, their area as in at that person, with them present, right? Because I've been unable to render it with the visual aids that would have helped this video along nicely, I have to remove most of it, which royally pisses me off. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with Vegas Pro, and I'm really sorry that has happened. This subject is very serious, and the visual aids were needed so you can see from the documents themselves some of the crap they've been pulling that I've tried to simplify down, because that's what I do. As I have failed repeatedly to do so, you're getting the even more stripped back version because Vegas Pro 18 can suck an egg. I feel like I'm going to have to reinstall Vegas Pro 14 just so I can make content that I enjoy making properly. Please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Going back as far as mid-September of this year, I have been collecting sources to hold on to concerning a YouTuber called Synnibear. The reason why is because a 180-page Google Doc did its rounds. Within it was some rather conclusive evidence, damaging evidence, that they, Synnibear, had been partaking in inappropriate behaviour at the age of 21, or going back to 18 at a point as well, to send explicit material, drawn, artistic, to somebody who was a minor. Now it can be argued others within certain groups were also doing the same, receiving that is. This isn't a good look for anyone, it really isn't. It's not a good look when you, Synnibear, are called out by that person. You are then called out by people who live with you, who then set up GoFundMes to leave because they need to, which you then try to get shut down, which is hilarious. You private your apology video, your initial one, under the guise of it being produced under duress. Others make videos directly responding to you, people that were in that group chat, friends of yours, former friends of yours, colleagues, acquaintances. For those who don't know, Synnibear falls within the art community. Typically, they and many others produce memes. Nothing wrong with that in the slightest. Generally speaking, this is not an area of the internet I'm all too familiar with, and I'm not too familiar with it because I don't generally pay attention to other forms of artistic presentation beyond my own one. But there is still a rather annoying trend on social media of those who are adult taking advantage of impressionable members of their audience, whether they be fan, supporter, mod, or fellow colleague, creator, peer, right? In this instance, the user that Synnibear sent messages to at that time were as young as 14 years old. Some were 15, 16, 18. I think Synnibear was 18 when some of these messages were doing their rounds. Group chats, that is. The inappropriate stuff is all over the place, but it doesn't and cannot be justified. Therefore, it is beyond inappropriate. The inappropriate material involved S.A. Salt. You've drawn this, by the way. I don't understand that. The mentality that goes into drawing that kind of stuff tells me there's something wrong in your head already. And people that like to fetishize this, no thank you. One person who did live with Synnibear at a point, who I'd mentioned started fundraising to leave, did successfully do so, was staying with friends temporarily in a 6-tweet thread, had mentioned that they and others had severed contact with Synnibear, but Synny was still in contact with others. Even if at that time, Synny had mentioned in a community post on their YouTube page that they were on holiday. This reminds me of The Completionist and others who get into drama, like Dr. Disrespect. I would deal with this, but I'm on holiday right now. That kind of mentality. They did rather kindly leave a baseball cap as a parting gift with the word groom on it. If you had a Sharpie, you could have finished that one off. There are many questions about the hat, of course there are. And I was, for this video, going to pull up some tweets from Synnibear, but nope, they don't exist. because the Twitter account is protected. How exciting, everyone. What I thought I'd do to begin with is go through the apology video that Synnibear had put out. The initial video that has since vanished. The internet's forever, so yeah, I've got a copy of it. And then we'll go through, well, I don't know if I can go through the document, it's 180 pages. There are two, in fact. One's 111. What I can do is briefly touch on, if we have time, the fact that the reason we're doing this now is because Synnibear has finally put out a part 1 response video directly addressing the claims against her. All of which should be rather interesting, really, shouldn't it?
I was going to make a video talking about a recent document that was released about me, but the situation has gotten much more serious as I realize the damage that I've caused. I have been an irresponsible content creator.
For the sake of it, Synnibear should have ended it here. It could have just been released everywhere as I've been an irresponsible creator, and I'm very sorry. How about that?
And I've been acting inappropriately towards my fans. This alone is enough for me to realize I need to make sweeping changes to how I conduct myself and how I interact with my fans.
There is this weird line in the sand between creator and what you have dubbed a fan. It's not a word I'm overly fond of personally, but I can understand that if someone supports you, then they are to an extent a fan. Yes, I have to be pedantic to justify a word I'm not overly keen on. If you are too close to your fans, as you yourself have stated, then your sweeping changes are in hindsight. You being quite young yourself should have known better than to do what you were doing. Yet it didn't stop you because arrogance usually does manifest in a way that prevents us from being able to see the bigger picture. In your case, you were sending S.A cartoons to a 14-year-old.
But the most serious thing I've done is I've groomed a minor. I became friends with a 14-year-old after I made a mental note to myself to not become friends with minors again. And I overshared with them. I shared graphic, explicit materials with them when I shouldn't have.
So what's amusing now is you might well think you have a future as a YouTuber. You really don't. No offense intended here, but recovery from this is damning. Not many are going to be so honest creators that make these mistakes. They rarely do stand up and say, yeah, I did this, I take responsibility. The internet doesn't forgive, though. The brand of Synnibear is forever tainted and poisoned by your own stupidity.
I groomed this child, and I knew what I was doing was wrong. And I betrayed everyone who looked up to me. I betrayed my friends. I've done the worst possible thing I could have done, and I'm suffering for my choices. I don't know if I can ever come back to my platform, and it's my own fault.
I'm going to say now, no one cares if you're suffering for what you've done, because ultimately the only person that anyone actually cared about is the person you were inappropriately messaging that put out the document in the first place. Calling you out for what was the dumbest stuff you could ever do. It's not about whether or not you, by the way, could come back to your platform. It's whether or not the internet would allow you back to your platform.
I'm going to seek therapy. I'm stepping away from my social medias, and I'm going to try to figure out why I felt it was appropriate to talk to my fans this way. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want this pattern to repeat itself. I want to be better. Nothing I do will ever make this right.
Now you continue for another minute, very emotional, very distressed, and of course I could sit here and bully you for that all day long. I'm not going to. Instead, we're going to use what you just said at the end and skip into your more recent video addressing the allegations. This part tickled me. It tickled me because your mentality has changed. I wonder why.
Nothing in the past week has made sense. I was completely convinced that I was a predator and a groomer and that I needed intervention. I'm realizing I might not even have a clear understanding of what grooming is.
Well, let's see. You sent messages which included imagery you had drawn that was sexually explicit to a minor. That material, that drawn material, was of a RAPE variety. When you are comfortable messaging sexually explicit material to an underage person, you are doing something quite wrong. If you want to argue morals with this, you'd need a leg to stand on first.
I believed I groomed a child because Jack told me I did, and I believed him because I trusted him. But Jack doesn't know what he's talking about. I made my confession under duress. I fully believed I was a groomer because Jack told me I was one, but I don't believe that anymore. I am not a groomer. I did not groom N.O.
For the sake of this video, I'm not going to call you a GROOMER. I'm not going to. However, I am going to tell you, people still have you when it comes to sending what you had sent them when the person receiving was under any legal age of consent. In my country, you can't send explicit material to people under the age of 18, and we've yet to get to a stage of requiring a license to be able to view such material. Give it time, I'm sure it'll happen. In this, you did send those messages. You can't deny that. The Google documents completely annihilate you if you even try. You may have deleted the initial apology saying you are a GROOMER, but the evidence is against you, including your own admission of guilt, regardless of you believing it coming out under duress.
It honestly feels like everyone has their own definition of what grooming is, which is so fucking dangerous. But smart people define child grooming as the act of deliberately establishing a relationship with a child to prepare them for abuse.
On the third page of that Google Doc, you actually ask, off topic, the age of the person you are speaking to. You ask for it. So you, citing the definition, if anything, lends credence to what is in the Google Doc, because it's just there posted as a screenshot, hardly being used to frame anything, yet.
As an action in and of itself, grooming does not have criminal penalties, but facilitation of a criminal sexual act is considered a crime. Many of you likely saw my video where I stated I groomed a minor, and I saw quite a few people point out that it's very strange. The main reason I saw was, people don't usually confess to things like this, they try to fight back against these things. But none of you questioned if what I was saying actually made sense.
The problem you have here is, you are operating with two sets of rules. One is the rule of the internet, where you are unlikely to be given an iota of forgiveness by the wider public. That is the court of public opinion and how it always works. When it comes to children or minors in any capacity, you're done. And then you're introducing the legal side of it. IRL, that is, for legal anyway, which doesn't work as well on the internet. Again, the court of public opinion is vastly different. You admitted to it, the Google Docs exist, so whatever you say will either be seen as downplaying or inadequate, insufficient, or a U-turn to go on the offensive against others, either by character assassination or to downplay what they have said. Possibly debunking as well, of course. We shouldn't rule that out.
I was coaxed and guilted into a false confession by someone I loved and took care of. Someone I worked my ass off to provide a moderately comfortable lifestyle, not only for them, but for the 2 cats they begged me to adopt. One of which he stole from my apartment. My conversations with Enno, while inappropriate and irresponsible, trust me, you will never catch me trying to act like this was an okay thing to do.
So now the earlier reference to the GoFundMe, the groomer hat, or groom hat in this instance, all starts to make more sense, doesn't it? All these players in the story, Jack, that is. As far as a topic goes, it gets quite interesting, really, doesn't it? It's almost like a soap. Now, when it comes to what has been released, again, 183 pages of it, there is a point to be made about the inappropriateness of the messages you were sending to that person. You should have apologized, and when I earlier cut you off right at the start, that's where you should have stopped. Everything else was admission, as you say, under duress. The original part, though, should stand. Apologizing for inappropriate behavior towards that of a minor. If you don't want to call it, well, GROOMING, go ahead. Call it whatever you like to call it. I call it a guarantee. Let's call it this. General jackassery. Do you like how I did a little rhyme there? Yeah, it took me like 3 seconds to figure out. I'm so proud of myself.
I wasn't flirting with Enno. My messages have been misinterpreted in the most bad faith and malicious manner possible.
That there sounds like a you problem. The problem you have is those messages can be, because they're text form and tone no longer exists in text, be interpreted in many different ways. You often find the more defensive you get, the harder it is for others to believe whether you're telling the truth or not. In this, it doesn't matter. You still said it, even after finding out they were only 14. The conversations should have ceased, but they did not, for reasons you cannot be asked to accept or specify. Preferably accept, and that's it, really. If you'd simply severed contact and communication because inappropriate age, no offense intended, sorry bro, this could have been avoided. But you didn't. So everything that happens since is on your shoulders because of your own stupidity. Now, your response video at time of recording hasn't been very well received at all. There are still upvotes, but the downvotes have it, and the comments are not on your side. They're really not. I am considering doing a part 2 to this, because there's a lot more in your first part, that I feel is relevant to address. And the comments, as I've stated, do you an absolute mischief. I could sit here all day and just reply to these and laugh, but I've run out of time and I'm really sorry. This topic is dark, and I genuinely am sorry to anyone who is bothered by this, but subjects like this need to be discussed, and those who partake in this nonsense need to be called out. You, Synnibear, are a moron that sent explicit material of the SA variety to a child. There's no moral high ground for you, and there never will be. You can argue what the label for that is. Smeghead seems accurate.